View from the top. CEOs review the news on video for FT.com. This week, Mort Zuckerman of Boston Properties. In this segment discussing print publications, Madoff, and his money. You're also a publisher.
Yes.
How is the print publishing business doing?
Well, the print publishing business is an oxymoron. It is no longer a business. It is an advertising-driven business, and the advertisers have driven elsewhere. Now, it doesn't mean you lose all advertising. Everybody is focusing on reducing costs because the revenue side is very, very difficult. And almost every major newspaper in this country is losing money. And the real question is, do those companies, particularly the public companies, have other sources of revenue, as, for example, the Washington Post does with that educational testing, the Kaplan education.
Is that any way to run a business, though? If
you
know it's loss-making and you have to do something else on the side to support it?
I publish the New York Daily News, which has the largest audience in the country of any metropolitan newspaper, if you add both the readership off of the print product and off of our website. Now, I did not go into it to make a lot of money. I went into it because I happen to be an addict for journalism, and I've tried all kinds of medical cures to get me out of it, and none of them have worked yet, and I suspect they're not going to work. So
it's a very expensive addiction.
It actually was a very profitable involvement for quite a long period of time, and in the last couple of years it's really gone downhill. And our websites are doing extraordinarily well. But as I said at one point in an interview with a royal commission from England, we are substituting nickels for dollars in terms of ad revenues. But there will be a time where that will carry it to a considerable degree, and it's changing the nature of what you put in the newspaper. But nevertheless, for very specific reasons, the New York Daily News will be a viable newspaper because of the nature of New York City and the fact that it's a subway city, and you have a lot of immigrant populations and a lot of different populations that read a populist newspaper like the Daily News. So we think we'll be all right on that.
Do you think some other newspapers won't be viable? Is this going to be a year when we
For
see
sure.
storied newspapers
For
going
sure.
out of business?
I think there's no doubt about it. Unless they are owned by people who are in a position to afford to carry them and are willing to do it because they believe in the role of newspapers or they believe in journalism.
So newspapers will have to become a rich man's charity?
Well, I don't like to think of it that way, but whether it's if you have to own a company
I don't
like,
either, but that might
like
be
Kaplan,
it might be true.
Yes, well, if they stay that way, they will not be that rich for that long, because you could lose an awful lot of money in a newspaper. So you've got to find a way to work it. And what happens is it's very difficult. You have to really reduce the costs, and you have to find a way to add revenue. Particularly, most of the revenue additions are going to come off the website. So you've got to figure how long that's going to take to get to a different point of equilibrium. And it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people. I would say one of the papers in Philadelphia will probably close down. You've already seen the Times Mirror Corporation go bankrupt, and they're going to have to go through an entire reorganization. There are a number of other newspapers that have shut down.
The Boston Globe now valued at $12 million.
The Boston Globe is not worth $12 million, and there's a very simple reason for that. It's losing a drastic amount of money, probably $75 million a year. The International Herald Tribune is losing a huge amount of money, and that's all within the New York Times company. And the New York Times is probably somewhat profitable, but they have a lot of other losses to maintain, and that's why they've just borrowed $250 million from Carlos Slim at a mere 14% a year.